Okay, I think we're in business. Hi, everybody. Boop. Welcome to my channel. My name is Margaret Pinard. I'm a historical fiction and speculative fiction author and an eclectic reader. And we're going to be talking about both reading and writing on today's 1K Q&A and Storygraph stats extravaganza. So welcome. Just so you know, I got back home at 2 a.m. last night, and I've had 2 hours to put the stream up, get the cat pack settled in, do my answers to questions, wrap some gifts, make some hot cocoa, and generally get ready for this stream. So happy Christmas Eve, everybody. I hope you're all safe and warm at home. If you don't have a hot cocoa, what else are you treating yourself to? What else are you drinking with us this lovely morning-ish for me and evening-ish for most other people, I expect? Oh, the hot cocoa is not going to do me any morning voice favors, is it? Okay, well, I've got water. We're good. I'm going to be talking about the 2023 trends. I just rewatched the video from last year's sum up of Storygraph, which was from January 18th. So I'm doing mine a little early this year, but it's basically over. I didn't read any books in the last week. I didn't finish any. I'll probably finish a couple before the end of the year. So the stats are basically correct. And we'll see if there have been any changes or any movement in my reading for 2023. Also, I've got a good crop of questions that people sent in for my 1K Q&A. And what that means is I hit 1,000 subscribers, and to celebrate and celebrate with the community that is subscribed, I figured I would do a Q&A session where people can ask me any bookish questions that they like. So several people chimed in with some good ones, and I'll be sprinkling those throughout the live stream today. So we've got that, and I've also got a question of the day. So welcome and settle in. Let me just sidle over to the chat. I do love that word, sidle. We had an R.C. Scott coming in with some snow and Santa and laughter, and I returned the rockin' Santa. So JD, hello. He says, we better be seeing you with a tropical drink and a suntan. We'll try and log on in a bit to wish you a live and Merry Christmas. So this is all the color I got. I wasn't out all the time. It wasn't sunny all the time. It was like Oahu rain sunshine about 70% of the time, which was pretty glorious. I did get out to swim in the ocean, and I did get out to run along the beach, and it was pretty cool. So we had a little family reunion on Oahu, and I'd never been, and so lots of new things to experience and family memories to create. So that was wonderful. We had a little island moment because JD is still in Puerto Rico for another few days, and I was on Hawaii. So in Hawaii, on Oahu, sorry. JC is here. Hello, JC. And she's sending Santa, trees, and snow. Like it? Anita is here. AF Stewart. Richard Holiday. It's his time. It's his time to shine. He says Christmas. And let's see. We've got Mindy's book journey. Merry Christmas Eve. Hey. Oh, Mindy is drinking coffee. Excellent. I'm drinking Mexican hot chocolate with some of the marshmallows from my local chocolate store. I know I've talked about this before. They call them mini marshmallows, but they're this big. They're not minis. They're just mini for the store because they usually go with a big block of one per drink, and that is just too much. Oh, well, I'm being a little lax. I don't verify, so I just took everyone who asked a question on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or YouTube. I had 4 different places, and yes, officially Merry Christmas Eve. I hope you notice I've gotten a little festive in the background. Oh, you can't even hardly see these. These like little Trader Joe's colorful wool felt things. Yes, happy for all the family memories. Christmas is less than 4 hours away here in the UK. That is true. I realized as I was sitting down that it would be much closer to Christmas Eve time, and so probably the UK folks are going to be, I don't know, having dinner, opening stockings, whatever y'all do the night before. JD says Hawaii Islands and PR are the only islands with a specific type of mountains. Ooh, I didn't know that. I mean, it must be because of the volcanoes. I did see someone with like a PR Gothic script bumper sticker when I was there, and I thought, there we go. There's the JD in the mix. It's Mexican hot chocolate spicy. This one is not. Unfortunately, it's Nestle, and it's just very sweet, but it's got a little bit, I think, of cornstarch to kind of imitate champurrada, and cinnamon. So it gives it a little bit of a different flavor. Eloise Barr writes, Merry Christmas Eve. Hello and welcome. JD is having dinner part 1 soon. I mean, if you're like an Italian family, you have a feast of 7 fishes. So bring it on. We love feasts here. Yes. They have Puerto Rican frogs that are a plague in Hawaii. Oh no. Pest species. That's rough. That's rough. And Merry Christmas, everyone. Yay. Oh, okay. You got 2 stops. So spreading the JD cheer. I love it. I love it. So one of the new things today is that Storygraph, StreamYard is now allowing us to stream to Instagram. So if you are on Instagram watching, I think I can get comments from you guys. So like wave and let me know that you're on Instagram live, because this is the first time I've streamed on a desktop to Instagram live. And that's pretty darn cool for the end of 2023. So let's jump in with the first question. I'm just gonna like post it up in here in a banner. Yes, I can create one too. So this is coming from Jack at Spread Book Joy. What topics are piquing your writer's brain at the moment that may inspire future writing? So this is an interesting one because we did just complete a November NaNoWriMo, and I basically compiled things that were interesting me the whole year and like threw it into the pot for NaNoWriMo. So the Irish Readathon was a big inspiration. My April Camp Nano short stories they're not going to be short stories. They're being distilled into like 2 plots in 1 book. So that's what happened with Nano. I've done further research, and I'm looking for someone to buddy read a book that I just can't seem to read, which I think would be really helpful though. But there's some of the essays in here that are talking about the Irish diaspora after the potato famine and the generational trauma. So that was a March read, a very diverse collection. And then this was also Tua Ish Tierna. Terrible Gaelic pronunciation. I'm out of practice, but it's talking about tenants and landlords in the Scottish Hebrides, and it's translated from Gaelic. So I've got both texts and some notes on this. And as you can see, there's lots of notes being taken. The one that I can't seem to read is a historical fiction from like 30 years ago by Thomas Flanagan called The Year of the French, because I have dived into it and there are so many references in here that I don't understand, either because of the language or because of the historical context of like 1798. It's not really my time period, but I think it would be really interesting because it gives you the glimpse of the colonized Highlanders who have become the British Army's standout soldiers, marching in on the being colonized Irish in a battle, like the Battle of Vinegar Hill. And so I really want to see someone's perspective on that, but like It's a lot, and I need help. So if anyone wants to read a historical fiction with me or has this book by chance, let me know. It will get my writer's brain pinging and give me more fodder, that's a battle joke, for future writing and editing on the book I'm currently working on, which doesn't have a title, so no working title. But thank you, Jack, for that question. Very exciting. Let's see. Let me line the next one up and start Storygraph piece so that we're hopping back and forth. I think that will be my modus operandi. Let me revisit the chat. So, yes, JD needs 2 stomachs. That's where we left off. And then we've got, if Hawaii puts pineapple on pizza, what does Puerto Rico put on pizza? And I will just let you know, Richard, pineapple is actually an imported crop in Hawaii. It's not native to Hawaii. I think it's native to Central America, like Belize, they determined. I heard it on the Dole Plantation tour. So it must be true. We've got plantains, sweet plantains, and ground beef. Eloise knows. Nice. And she's very proud of herself. Oh, on the pizza. Oh, right. Gotcha. Yeah, Richard says, I'd eat that. Yep. Oh, and we've got some answers to the question. So I will star those for later. Plenty of Puerto Rican history for Spanish short stories. But we'll make it to English stories too. Oh boy. Yeah, what was I? The Black Ghost of Empire. It didn't talk about Puerto Rico as much as Cuba and Jamaica, but there's some interesting stuff that went down in the history books there. So very interesting. Good fodder for short stories as well. Oh, Christmas pickle. Is it about fries? The year of the French. No, it is not. It's when they thought the French were going to be allies for the Irish cause for freedom, and then they finked out at the last minute, and a lot of people died. Richard says, I can't get on board with this book as a Brit. Who knows whose point of view it's portraying? I mean, Thomas Flanagan is an American. I don't know. Like I said, it's difficult to understand, which is why I need a buddy. Oh, let's see. Ms. WOC Reader, hello. Congrats on 1K. Thank you. Yes, JD says the whole Caribbean is intense history-wise, which is why, June Caribathon is a great readathon for like getting into that some nitty-gritty if you're interested. I do love a readathon. Oh, yeah. We were almost Dutch, French, and English. Yeah, this whole empire thing. Yeah, it's interesting. It's also horrific, but it's interesting to someone now to look back and learn. Okay. So when I started my Storygraph stats last year, the first time I did it, I had screenshots of my graphs and I blew them up, but I still couldn't read them when I shared the screen. So what we're going to do today is a different method. We're just going to try sharing the tab that is open. So let's see how that goes. Also share tab audio. Well, it's not saying anything, so that should be fine. So the first thing I was going to go into was reading goals and ratings. So the reading goals that I actually thought I didn't have, but I did, was for a gross. And that is definitely a Lord of the Rings reference, because it's Frodo's plus Bilbo's birthdays. I thought I could do 144 books in a year, but I had some slow spots. And so I am at 127. Like I said, I think I'll get 2, maybe 3 in the next week and change. So we'll see what the final number is. But I am not mad at 127 books in the year. And for 2024, let it be known, I'm just going to scale it back and say my goal is 125. It's a nice round number in some number system. So let's go with that. And maybe I'll win next time. But the more interesting thing to look at here is the ratings. So I actually had a lot of 4-star books. And, this is partly because let's do this. Nope, that doesn't work. This. No, that doesn't really work. There we go. Okay, so I have different ratings reasons. Sometimes different genres call for different ratings, sometimes different, not formats. Publishing venues call for different ratings, but typically 4-star means that it's a solid, good read. And like many other people would enjoy this book, and I enjoyed it myself. And whether that is like really enjoyed it or like it was great, but I don't need to read the whole rest of the series. I'm not salivating for more of this type of book. Still 4-star. So there's like a little bit of a range. But yeah, that's good for an average. My average rating for the whole year is 4 stars. So I'm pretty good at picking books, which is good because, I'm a booktuber. You would hope so. Okay, now I can't go back up to the comments. StreamYard. Okay. So yeah, and then when you look at the bottom here, at the bottom is 2.0. So no 1-star books, which is good. Why would I read a 1-star book? I think I would DNF. And we'll talk about DNFs later. Up to 5 stars. So let me see if it'll tell me how many 5 stars. I hover over it. Yeah, 12 books. So that's like 1 a month. That's pretty good, average-wise. The marshmallows are melting. 30 4-star books. Yeah. So, this is my claim to being able to recommend books. I can recommend them for myself. So, hey, why not trust me with your reading needs? I don't know. Is that sketchy? Okay, so that's the ratings. Did I have anything else to say about ratings? Last time I mentioned I did a whole tag on like how I rate things. I don't think it's evolved too much, so that'll probably be similar if you're interested. I know there are several versions of Booktube ratings tags, but I did one, and I don't need to go back and do a whole revisit of that just to say, what makes a good book for me. I look for good writing. I look for good story arc. I look for well-developed characters. I look for some sort of like takeaway, depending on fiction or nonfiction. And I think I'm pretty easy to please. So maybe that's what this is demonstrating. So hide this for a second and take this down. Let me check in with the Q&A. So we had a couple answers. JD says traditions are decorating with Charlie Brown music. Oh, see, I wish I could play that, but that's copyrighted music faux show. But I am doing Joy to the World, which no one caught on earlier in the year, but now it's finally appropriate. So there we go. And then Eloise says, old tradition is the Christmas pickle. Can't do it anymore, really, with just one kid. And new tradition are Christmas-themed Lego sets. Okay, we're asking about the Christmas pickle because, of course, it's a take on a German tradition, a glittery pickle ornament, which I have seen. My parents would hide it on the tree, and whatever kid found it first would get something special. Oh, so it's kind of like a king cake where you find the little baby in your slice of cake. That's cool. Or a galette des rois. Maybe that's a galette instead of a king cake. No, I think they both have a little toy or coin hidden. But that's fun. That's a good tradition. As I said, I have already been last minute wrapping gifts this morning because yeah, why not? I ordered some before I left for Hawaii, and I got back, and now they need to be wrapped because I'm heading over to my boyfriend's house to celebrate with his dad, have a little Christmas Day celebration, and I have gifts to wrap for them. So yeah, wrapping presents on Christmas Eve is an old tradition. I don't know that I have a new one. decorating, half-ass decorate. Let's see. Oh, we've got another question. Let me tag that. Eloise says 127 is an amazing amount. I think I got like 3. Well, when it's your debut year, it was, right? First book. That can sort of overwhelm everything, I think. So kudos for that. JD says, reading goals, I didn't make mine, but still over 30, so not bad. I had some life in caps, plus 2 releases, 1 extra manuscript, and halfway through second draft. So I get tricks. A booktuber who actually reads. I think most booktubers read. Richard says, imagine. Mindy says, see, Mindy's a booktuber who reads. I'm at 119 right now. My average rating is pretty high, 4.26. So there you go. You can go to Mindy's and see if you like the same genres. She's pretty good at picking them. 4.26 is awesome. Sometimes the intention for me also impacts. I read a book that I don't think I was the target for, but I think the book could really help some people. Yeah, you could see how it would be really good for others, but you're just like, I did that with definitely some of the minimalism books. I think two books that I read this year that I was like, I'm past this. It's kind of like reading a first grade book when you're in 8th grade. You're like, it'd be great, but not for me. Yeah, like a Christmas challenge, a Christmas pickle. Yeah. Oh, okay. We've got some food questions. I will segregate those for later. Eloise says, my parents were clever, and the special thing was the privilege of handing out presents. Saved lots of fights between my sister and I. Yeah. Some of us liked to be helpful and pull the presents out and sort them into piles. But then that apparently took the joy out of finding their presents under the tree as when we were kids. So I was barred from doing that the next year. I was just trying to help. So yeah, early organizer tendencies. What can I say? We've got a no. We've got a yes to the eggnog question. Oh yeah, JD says huge channels. Yeah. And to eggnog. And coquito is better than eggnog. Have converted several people. Coquito. Okay, well now you've got to explain that. And while you're doing that in the chat, just invite people. If you're new here, subscribe, hang on, see what's going on. We're going to dive back into the next question, which is from Rachel at RK Stumbling Bear. And her question was for the 1K Q&A banner. There we go. Have you always been an eclectic reader, which is how I introduced myself on the channel? Or have your preferences shifted over time? And this one I had to think about for a bit. So yes, I think it's definitely meandered, but here's my little like graph charting of the sea of my reading. So when I was a kid and a teen, it was mostly fantasy and historical. I can clearly recall the Dream of the Stone by Christine Kazantzakis. I can't remember. It's a Greek last name and I always forget it. But that is a book about like a teenage girl who has to go into like a portal fantasy basically and rescue her brother, and there's evil coming into the world. So a lot like A Wrinkle in Time, which is a classic that I also loved and read the whole series for. So definitely like fantasy as a kid, and branching into Lord of the Rings, like a middle school, junior high. And that was, I would say more like got me into historical because it's more of an epic. It's more of there's like different kinds of people, different parts of the world. So that probably piqued my interest for historical. I also read the American Girl books as a kid, like all of them that were available then, and was really into the Victorian one. Surprise, surprise, the 1904. Actually, that's not Victorian, but it's an American mistake. Please forgive. And yeah, so that sort of piqued my interest. Then, like as I got older, it was like French books and I majored in French in college, so that was a big thing, like plays and classics. And then when I was traveling and going to grad school and studying development, it was like world classics, so like translated things and nonfiction for international development because I was all about trying to learn about the world and the history and the economics. And then when I came back to Portland, it was like, nah, I can't do that. I'm going to be a writer and tackle things a different way. It was back to historical and fantasy and nonfiction. So like I feel like I've taken a little bit of each eras, and we're moving forward with that. So yeah, that's the evolution of Margaret's eclectic readertude. Yeah, great question from Rachel. Let me set up the next one. Oh, well, I'll just say this because it was also Rachel and she put it in the same question. So, oh, I can do this. I really can. What made you get into writing? So I would say it's from reading those historical fiction stories from early on, um, and feeling immersed in them and getting to know people in different times and places, and loving that so much that I wanted to be able to do it for other people. So providing that same level of enchantment and learning and discovery for a reader because I so enjoyed it. So yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Um, okay, so I'm gonna prep the next question. And hop back to Storygraph. So the next Storygraph thing is not rereads, but most read authors. So let me pop this up, scroll over for y'all. Did I pass it? Genres, tags. Yes, here we go. So this will be like this is a good. What does Margaret Comfort read? So the most read authors is similar, but a few changes. So 2023 saw me reading 5 Grace Burroughs books. So she has historical romance, but also historical romance mystery. And so I was definitely plowing through the used copies of her books that I could find. I really like her writing. I really like her treatment of characters and interior dialogue and sort of sensitive characters. But I did have a few disappointments. So maybe I'll be slowing down on her books. The last couple were only like 3.5 stars because the mystery wasn't really there, which was strange. So we'll see if it comes back. We've got Mimi Matthews, who's a historical romance writer, and she's going to be probably my last read. Maybe second to last, maybe my penultimate read because I want to do one more holiday romance, and she's got um, like a Victorian Christmas by candlelight novella that I have on my e-reader, so I'm excited for that. We've got Anne Bishop. That was my decision to go back and reread The Others novel that I remember sort of reading, but I didn't finish it and finishing the series because I wanted to know what happened. And that's like the only series where that's happened. So I know I've talked with Jim's books reading and stuff about series and stuff. And yeah, I did need to go back and finish that. There are some other things set in the world, but not in the main series. So I do like the premise and the characters and the imaginative world building for the Others series. I did get frustrated a little with the pacing changes. So that's my read of that. We've got Laurie R. King, which is principally rereads because I didn't remember any of the mysteries endings in her Russell and Holmes series. I started rereading it last year and continued this year. So I got 3 of those in this year. Then two. Then we've got Jacqueline Winspear, who is not a reread. She had 2 new books this year, her latest but one novel in the Maisie Dobbs series, as well as her memoir, this time next year we'll be laughing. She's British, so I can't say laughing. It just sounds wrong. And it was lovely. It's a lovely memoir of her childhood in the 1950s and how it reflected a lot of her own parents' childhoods and values and issues. And so it's sort of like you're getting this Edwardian layered onto her own sort of Kentish countryside childhood. And she's such a beautiful writer that I really liked it. We've got R.F. Kuang here, 2 books. You will know if you subscribe for a while that Babel is on that list, and as well The Poppy War. So I didn't continue with the series, but The Poppy War was really good. It was just a little graphic and like overwrought violence-wise for me, so I didn't continue with the series, but Babel was really good. You'll hear about it later today. And then finally, Bailey Cates. This is an author who I tried this year. She's a cozy mystery author, and I finally found a cozy mystery author that I can enjoy. It combines supernatural, so there's witches in Savannah, Georgia, who run a bakery, which is super cozy and lovely to hear bakery treats and see recipes, as well as a little romance, but like it's a whole series arc. It's very slow moving and not very graphic at all. It's just very sweet. And the mystery. So you get like something that's going on and she has to pretend to be normal while she's solving these crimes, and often they're supernatural crimes. So it's very fun. And so I do like those pun-tastic titled mysteries. So those have been fun to read this year. So most read authors. And that is Bean. He is very concerned that I was away for so long, so he's staying very close. I think we're gonna take another little break and go to the chat because I see I'm getting behind a little here. Okay, so we're gonna hear what the coquito is. Eloise said, yes, that's me too. Organize the piles. I know. And then I guess this is a follow-up question, so I won't star that for later. Everyone takes turns to open presents or frenzied opening free-for-all? No, we take turns because we were like a photographing family. So my dad used to have like the big old VCR recorder, and he like pointed at whoever was opening the presents, and the joke was that you're not opening it fast enough because it's not exciting video footage. Of course it's not. But now it's just people want to get pictures. So when you're opening a present, you make sure that the person who gave it to you is watching because they obviously want to see your reaction. And so that's like the appreciative moment, and they can get a picture if they want. But we try not to be too paparazzi about it. Okay, coquito. This sounds like a fun time. An eggless eggnog, coconut cream, coconut milk, rum, and blessings. I love it. Oh my gosh. Yes. Post some pictures. Tag us wherever. Yeah, wherever you can. That sounds good. Coquito sounds delicious, says Mindy. And JD will post pics from later today. Nice. It's glorious, but a little goes a long way. As with most alcohol things, for sure. I love reading books no one knows about. Yes. I can't remember where that fit into the conversation, but definitely queen of books you've never heard of right here. Oh, between Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett, they're the most I've read authors. Anywho, must be off for dinner. Thanks for coming, JD. We'll see you later with your coquito pictures. Hugs. And RC is coming in again. Howdy, howdy. Yes, A Holiday by Gaslight. Candlelight. I was close. But yeah, Gaslight. That's definitely like the novella from Mimi Matthews. And Anita is saying that was a fun read. Excellent. I will be diving in the next week. Ah, Shannon's here. She says she loves coquito. Oh, I think she just missed JD. Maybe we'll have to tell him or share a picture if you guys are doing it. You could compare. My last sister-in-law is Puerto Rican, and she'd make this. That's so lovely. And hi, Shannon. Nice to see you. I don't have coquito. I have my hot cocoa and marshmallows. which are melting, and hopefully I don't get any white melty marshmallows on my face for the stream. All right, so I just did a Storygraph thing, so we'll go back to a question. This one is from Lauren, and this took some thought. This was, boop, here we go. What are 5 books that define your personality? Not hard at all. Not hard. So I sort of went through the top 5 stars that I usually give because I think they tell you something about the reader that they gave them 5 stars. And I said Sunshine by Robin McKinley because everyone knows I recommend that to everybody. It's a vampire fantasy adventure romance-ish. It's really good. I love Robin McKinley's writing in that. Lord of the Rings because I hate to say it, but I don't know. Wait, how do I want to say this? Imprinted on images of virtuous male behavior is Lord of the Rings. So I'm kind of up a creek, right? Lord of the Rings. The Firebird by Susanna Kearsley. Susanna Kearsley is someone who I started reading probably a decade ago. The Firebird is the first one that I read, but her stories are all sort of interlinked. She does time slip, dual timeline, and a little bit of supernatural. So the Firebird is where someone in the contemporary world has the ability to feel the history of objects. So they're like an antiques appraiser because get that bag. And she ends up sort of slipping into this earlier time, and part of it's set in Russia and part of it's set in Scotland, and they're linked together because of the alliances in the 18th century. So she writes beautifully. She's a super history nerd. She's been on the channel. I really enjoyed having her on as a guest. So Susanna Kearsley. All We Can Save, which is a collection of science and nature and poetry and nonprofit folks writing about the climate crisis and what we are doing to combat it and little victories. So as I said, I've read a lot of international development and environmental catastrophe sort of nonfiction reading. And this book was like an antidote. It was like a little bit of joy and continue the fight type feeling. So I think that really epitomizes my personality, that it's worth fighting for. Again, Lord of the Rings reference. And then finally, I'm just going to put Babel in this camp because Babel by R.F. Kuang has that quality of bittersweetness and ambiguity that I think a lot of people don't appreciate. But I thought it was so, so good. So when I finished that and was like, there's this terrible thing that is represented in the book as fictional, and it also exists in the world and we need to do something about it. I thought that was a lovely way to package it and have people discuss it and feel it and not struggle with it necessarily, but just sit with it and sort of think about it. Because I don't think a lot of people like to do that. So that is definitely in my bailiwick, if you will. So those are my 5 books for Lauren. That is the channel, the Writing Sisters. I'm still mixing them up because they've split, but they do both. The Writing Sisters and the Blind Sisters. So the next question is actually from Lauren as well. So I'll pop that into a banner. And I think this one I didn't prepare for. So this is going to be off the cuff. And in the interest of answering that, I'm going to take a sip. Lauren asks, how do you combat writer's block? And I realize that many writers have varying definitions of what writer's block is, whether they want to call it writer's block or not. But here's my thoughts on this. If you are a writer and want to have a regular writing practice, and that means writing regularly, Doesn't have to be every day. It doesn't have to be every week. Um, but I think, like Barrett Laurie says, everything is writing. If you're constantly processing things, thinking of ideas, playing with ideas, and like planning, that's all part of the process. If you're having issues with the sitting down and writing the words, I think NaNoWriMo and Camp Nano events are helpful because a lot of other people are doing it at the same time, so you can just join in. If you're having trouble with perfectionism and not getting it the way you have it in your head, there's like courses or writing partners or discussion groups you can join to get feedback and think about how you can change your style. Um, the writer's block part where you really want to write, and if people believe in it, that's kind of what I feel like, but you have a stuck feeling, like it won't come out, something won't come out of your brain. That's when I usually go away and do something else, because just like my task switching thing, I think that my back brain, to use a Neil, it's not Neil Stevenson, Neil Scythe series author. He has an AI intelligence brain in his dystopian novels that has a back brain which records everything. And I feel like we have that too. And it's constantly processing. And so if you leave it alone, the subject that you want to do, and come back to it, wherein you're feeling freshened or inspired or happy, switching up the mood instead of being in that same frustrated spot, I think that helps me. So that's what I'd recommend to other people. What I don't recommend and what I hate seeing is when people are frustrated and force themselves to continue and then proceed to lose all the joy in doing the thing that they really want to do. So I wouldn't recommend that. But good luck, Lauren, and I hope that it's helpful. Let me catch up in the chat and then jump back into the Storygraph. So Shannon watching a movie with the fam and lurking. Nice. Josiva's here to say hey. Josiva inspired today's question of the day, which, because she's here, I will hop back in and discuss here. Let's see if anyone did any other traditions. So Josiva just put on Instagram a new tradition, which was buying a book and reading it with her family. And so I was just asking whether people had old or new traditions. And we had some answers from JD and Eloise. And then Eloise had a different question. As a historical fiction writer, I'm getting off track. That's fine. How far outside your usual time period do you venture with stories, if that makes any sense? So I have actually skipped around. I started in the 1880s, and then I went to like the 1760s in a time travel. Then I went to the 1820s and 30s with my series, the Remnants series. And then I skipped all around with my short story collection because I was just experimenting and it didn't need to be super in-depth layered. And so that was really fun. But like, I have a tale. What are we doing? If I was going to write a whole book, I wouldn't feel comfortable doing it for anything like 18th century without a lot more research. And, here he goes. Tried to do Edwardian stuff, but that's also a whole nother set of like background details. So I know some of them, but I don't know enough to write a whole book. So I'd have to like immerse myself. So really it's like 1820s, verge of Victorian to 1880s. I don't go into the 90s. I'm not sure why. That's a big chunk. Yeah, I hope that answers the question. But yeah, back to that. We've got a kitty. Yeah, good Q&A. And with a bow and arrow. I'm not sure. Such amazing words. Regular writing regularly. I know. That's why I gave a little goofy smile for the camera. Yes, that's what I explained. I'm using my back brain. Oh, yeah, indie bookshop. Yeah. And Eva loves the era just after yours. Haha. 1880s to World War II. Interesting. Interesting. All right. So let me get back to the Storygraph side. I've got a few more categories here. So fiction and nonfiction. Pop our window back up. Fiction and nonfiction, it's the same as last year, like literally the same breakdown. A third nonfiction and 2/3 fiction, which seems fine to me. I don't really have a goal here. It's mixed in every month mostly. If you want to learn about my diverse reading goals, that is another video. I'll pop it in the chat. But yeah, I think a lot of fiction is actually really educational. So I'm not mad at having like more fiction than nonfiction. I don't feel like I'm being bamboozled or anything. That's a strange opinion to me. I think I learn every time I read something almost. So yeah, so it's exciting. Same percentage. The other thing I was looking at was format. Storygraph gives you a, oh, that's Instagram. That's the people watching on Instagram or like live or something. I don't know. Genres. So this will be no surprise either. I think these are the same ones. Historical is the top, and then romance, and then mystery, and then fantasy, and then contemporary. So all those are fiction, and then history. So the first nonfiction category is number 6, which is fine. I mean, I've got a lot of different things. So this is sort of supporting my eclectic reader. Way down at the bottom there, we've got science, horror, food and drink, essays, cookbook, business, middle grade, sociology, design, feminism, science fiction, poetry, and economics. Even the unloved categories need some love, right? And then format. Nope. Format. Nope. Where's the format? Excuse me. Wouldn't be a stream without a sneeze. There we go. So I think this is similar to last year's as well. Print is the dominant format I read at 72%. Audio is next at 17%, and then digital at 11%. So that reflects the fact that I read digital books when I'm reading indie usually, and I love supporting Libro.fm with the audiobook listens. And my last read this year after Mimi Matthews will be Our Migrant Souls by Hector Tobar for the Patreon book club. So that should be an awesome read. And yeah, the print is so that I can try to get less than 1,000 books in my apartment. But that seems to be like the natural number in like what nature wants me to have, because I keep bringing them in, and that keeps sort of being what I have. Okay, so maybe we'll never get out of that number of books. Maybe it's just not meant to be. What else have we got? We've got a Morgan. Hey, Morgan Lee. Just see, this says hers are 11% nonfiction and 89% fiction. Oh, but that's for 1 month. Well, you'll have to see if it changes throughout the year. Maybe you read more. Well, you don't do readathons, so it wouldn't be more nonfiction in November. But different months could be different results. That'd be fun. Eva says poetry is my number 1. Yeah, I could see that. And she's got a 55-45 print digital and no audio. They need homes. I know, even those like poor unloved genres need homes. And maybe she'll do a readathon in 2024. I like it. Oh, Marilyn Maya Mendoza. Aloha. Oh, I wish I could say more. I just listened to all this Hawaiian while I was sitting in the airport yesterday. Aloha. Lovely to see you. I should be wrapping up. Let's see how many questions I have left. I've got one more Storygraph category, so let's just do that now, which is the tags. So in case you don't know how I use tags, I like to keep track of who recommends things to me. So, shoot, I went the wrong way. So my tags on Storygraph are extensive. I have tags for everyone who's ever recommended a book to me that I've put into my TBR. I also have tags for where I got the book, whether it's from the library or Backstory Books, which is my like local used bookstore, or Libro for my audiobooks, or whether it was for a readathon like March of the Moderns, May of the Moderns, Jan's paperback books, whether it's translated lit, which we read in August, Broadway Books, which is the store, Up Books, which is another store, the Black Author Tuber Readathon, another readathon. So you can see, like, I have lots of different reasons for doing tags, and it's interesting to see which ones I've read the most of. Library. I guess if you get a library book, you want to read it. It's a little bit of a time pressure, so that like urges you on a little bit more. But like local bookstore books, they're high up there, I guess. Patreon Book Club, Irish, Brian is another booktuber. Wild Book Garden, that's Cynthia? No, that's Book Whimsy. It's something with a C. I can't remember. It's been too long since I've watched a video of hers. She's adorable though. Yeah. So I haven't read too many recommended books from booktubers, is what the tags tells me. Interesting. But I have read a lot of books that I bought locally. Okay. See, not mad at that. Let's catch up on the chat. I say, oh, we've got rapid fire questions. Justiva says, if you could only recommend one readathon, which would you pick? I think I've had the most success with the Irish readathon, just personally, so I'd go with that. Although Caribathon was also good in June. So those two. And then Morgan says, I only read 5 books this year, so my stats are very impressive. And then Eva likes the tag idea. That's pretty fun. Raylan says, I should try Storygraph, but I'm so bad at math. But they don't make you do math. They do it for you. That's the great thing. Like, I didn't have to do anything. I just click on the stats tab and they tell me all these things. It's great. We got an RK Stumbling Bear popping in to say hi. Rachel, I already answered your question, so you can rewind. I think you were second in the lineup. Eva picks random books. There's no math involved. Yeah. So that was the last part of Storygraph. DNFs. Okay. There's a new DNF tab. So before I stop sharing this, let me show you the DNF tab. So if you go up to your stats here, and I'm doing read books in 2023, you can also look at DNF books. And it says the average progress through a book before DNFing is 41%, which may make some of you feel, why don't you just finish it? And it may make others feel like, oh, you should have given it more of a chance. I don't know. People have different philosophies on DNFing. And the average time before DNFing, 14 days. I feel like that is being pulled out longer by like one outlier. I think it's probably shorter than a week. I give about 50 pages and I'm like, I don't know. If I'm not feeling it, I'm not going to hold on to it. So that's all the Storygraph stats. Pretty close to last year. And a couple different changes in the most read, but no big surprises. So let me go back to questions. We've got one from Nicole, who is the Writing Sisters, the Blind Sisters, one of the other 2 channels. They switch back and forth, so I still haven't like imprinted it. So Nicole says, put it on a banner here. Typo. There we go. If you could switch your writing style with another author, who would it be? Ooh. So I've had moments where I look back at my writing and go, ooh, it's so, well, cringe, you know? Sometimes I like it and sometimes I'm like, And in those times, I could wish that I could do it like some of the 5-star writers I've mentioned on the live stream, but then it wouldn't be me. This is why I can never do one of those writing like Stephen King vlogs, because what's the point? I know it's like an exercise and a challenge to try to write in a different way, but I feel like each book I write, I'm writing in a different way because I'm working with different characters. So hopefully it changes. Hopefully it gets better. So yeah, so that is my answer. And then Lauren had another question, which was a classic. And I didn't answer this one beforehand. So let me think. Let me take another sip. If you could meet an author, living or dead, who would it be? From Lauren. And my first reaction would be Charlotte Bronte, but I'm afraid at this point, having read more about them, the Bronte sisters, I might be disappointed. So, living or dead? I don't know. I'd probably get stage fright. When I met Diana Gabaldon, I was like unable to speak. So I don't know that I'd want it to be anyone that I really, really admired, because I'd probably just dumbstruck. So yeah, I don't have an answer for this one, Lauren. I'm sorry. I'm trying to get through the last two. We've got one from Lauren and one from Rachel. These also I did not get to, so let me think of them on the fly. So from Lauren, we've got, if you had one piece of advice you'd give to those struggling with creating content. So when you say creating content, to me that means putting out posts or videos, or so either written or audio or visual or all three, material that supports your brand as a writer. That's kind of what it means to me. So if that's not what you mean, I need correction. But I would say if you're struggling finding things to write about to support your author brand, I've had a couple different opportunities to brainstorm in terms of marketing. Where do you want to be? What do you want to write about? And mostly people will say, marketers who are, more into this than I am, they will say, what kind of things are you interested in? And like for me, it would be the cat content, and it would be like positive vibes, the things I put in my bio, and historical images, and newsies, like brainstorm all the things that you love, like all the things you're in the fandom for, and then sort of group them, right? Can you talk about cats as well as newsies? Well, no, those are really pretty separate, and sort of narrow it down till you have maybe 4 or 5. And I would say think about choosing one of those buckets each time you go to a platform or a type of content, and experiment. That's all I do. I have like regular notices. One of the things I do automatically is like put out on Twitter, this video is going live tomorrow or later today. But other than that, when I'm looking at posts for a Facebook group or Instagram posts, it's just things that I'm interested in that I think would be interesting to my audience. So if I run out of ideas, I go back to those buckets and think, what have I done recently? In the cat bucket. Oh, that sounded wrong. Or the Newsies bucket, the musicals, or the local small businesses that I love to support, So like have some of those things be what people recognize you for. And then just go, okay, what did I do at any of these for the last month? And that will be news. So I hope that helps. And Rachel's question, which is going to be our last one here at a little over the hour. Um, oh, another classic. You guys are so great with the 1K Q&A questions. When did you decide that you wanted to be a writer? And there's several answers possible for this. So I was writing, again, Newsies fan fiction in high school. And it was probably like 30 pages, like a little novelette, short story. It was a solid short story. And it was basically like dealing with the New York City, 1899. So I was going historical, and it was a love story, and there were like gangs and stuff going on that you see in the movie that's hinted at. And I just took those elements and made it into something new and got really into like the emotional part of character development and story. And I was really proud of it as a high schooler. And I was really into English class, and I thought this would be really cool if I could be a writer, but I should do something more serious. And that attitude continued until I did the more serious thing and just didn't feel successful at it. And thought, okay, if my life is going to be a happy one, I have to do something that aligns better with what I want to produce for the world. So I think really deciding to be a writer was a 2012 decision. And it's been a journey of like allowing myself to do this. It's a constant sort of cycle, and feeling pretty good about it now. You can watch my latest writing update, which talks about sort of the evolution of my last decade in publishing, and that's when I sort of describe like the ups and downs and whatnot. But yeah, I think that's when I decided. So. Okay. What do we have left? I can remind you all to like the stream, subscribe if you're new, and leave a comment if you're watching this on the replay. I don't know, maybe it's Christmas Day. Merry Christmas! Maybe it's New Year's Eve. Make those resolutions. I don't know. Whenever you're coming here, I appreciate you watching, and I hope you're having a lovely holiday. I'm going to visit the chat one last time, see if there's more. We're talking about DNFs, it looks like. Oh. So Eloise says, I'm a ruthless DNFer, LOL. Yeah, so that means you go like fast. You're like, nope, not for me. That's good. That's a skill. Justiva says, honestly, I tried super duper hard to not DNF a recent DNF, and I cannot imagine suffering through a book any more than I did. We all have different levels of like book pain tolerance, right? Yeah, it was much less than 41%. So Eva's looking at her stats. It says 14% average for December. All right. Yeah. Marilyn says 50 pages, but sometimes I try to be patient. Yeah. I got like 200 pages into one, and I was just like, I think I DNF'd 6 books this year, which is higher than usual, but I think I experimented more than usual, which correlates. Marilyn asks, what if you hate all the characters in a book, but the concept is okay and the subject is your type? Ooh. I don't think this has happened. Let me try to think. I think I remember recently not liking any of the characters in the book. The concept is okay and the subject is your type. Well, I'm eclectic, so I don't really have a type, but I think I had one of these recently, and Marilyn, often they sit on my nightstand and they're in like DNF limbo. And they don't get listed as DNFs, but they've like been there for a year. And then finally I just decided to list them as DNFs. So that's why I think 14 days is really longer than I DNF. It's probably more like 5 days if I'm actually reading the book. Justiva says, I DNF'd the other very quickly because I decided I didn't want the graphic nature of the crime fiction. It wasn't for me. Trying to track home library read. Hmm. Oh, I don't know what the answer is too, but it's supported Eva saying Margaret is a great example of making content around their passions rather than making passions around their content. Yes. And what is that? Cat bucket. Yeah, it got a little weird. Got a little weird, didn't it? Thank you, Marilyn. Marilyn's been past 1,000 subscribers for a while now. Hot footing it up that YouTube ladder. I hope it's going well. Yeah, answer for the last question. Happy Christmas Eve. Happy holidays. Eloise says, I have to push myself to give the book at least 50 pages. Yeah, ruthless. Okay. Eva says to Marilyn, I gotta love characters. I gotta have one at least, you know? Yeah, ENF limbo. Oh, you would meet me. Oh, that's so lovely. The one, yeah, for the living or dead author. So who knows? All right, so we're at an hour and 7 minutes, and I will wrap this up. Say thank you, everybody. I have not finished my hot chocolate yet, but I've also got my little chocolates and the advent calendar to catch up on because I didn't take it with me. So I hope I don't get myself sick. Anyway, 1K Q&A. Thank you so much to those who wrote in questions. And I will be back on Wednesday with a final Wednesday wrap for 2023. Just a couple more books to check in there. And I hope your reading is going well and you're enjoying the holiday with family, friends, and creating new memories and traditions. How about that? So thanks, everybody. Take care. See you again soon.